Hey guys, J.Bandicoot here. Now today I'm doing a video that's a little different from what I normally do, but I felt it was important to do a video on this subject. Today I'm going to be talking about Joker. No intro, no jokes, no lightheartedness really. I'm doing this video this way because the film poses many controversial issues and viewpoints that I hope to cover and explain thoroughly, as I feel this film is entirely necessary and needed in 2019. It's also due to the sensitive and controversial nature of these opinions and topics that I'm hoping to keep things a little bit more serious. So I hope you stay for my rationale, and I hope we can have civil discussions in the comments. This is also going to be somewhat spoilery, but I will avoid spoilers wherever I can. I'm also reading off a script down here, so if I jump back and forth, that's why that is. That's a warning to you for the spoilers and the video format itself. This video is also going to be discussing graphic and sensitive material, so please keep that in mind. I want to start off with the divide between the haves and the have-nots in the film, and the massive influence and message this divide projects. For those of you who aren't familiar, haves are people who generally have a great deal in their lives, and basically have done great with their lives. They were born into lucrative families, they've become wealthy and powerful on their own accord, or they're just generally successful and happy with no real issues in their lives to speak of. They don't have many worries at all. And the have-nots are classified as people who don't really have those luxuries. They've never had the upper hand in life and are living their day-to-day lives, struggling in the lower or middle class with many troubles to speak of. The entire, notion of the have-nots is that most of the time they might not know where their next meal is coming from, or they might not have enough money to pay their rent, that sort of thing. So that's the definition of a have-not. The entire motive behind Joker assuming his identity is due to the fact that he is a have-not who feels his entire life is meaningless. He has no real family, no happiness, no job, no support, and is completely invisible to society. He finds that the one real avenue in which he can fulfill the one dream that he has, the dream of being recognized, inspiring people, and giving them light in their lives, is by cleansing the world of people he deems as a stain on society and are worth getting rid of in order to make the world a better place. His ideals of stains on society are much different than society's image itself, as the media reflects the deaths of certain characters in the movie as a great loss, despite their true heinous natures. They just reflect the fact that they were a great loss because they were Wall Street executives, and that they were haves. They were higher up on the food chain, but automatically that makes them a great loss, even though they were horrible people. This further exemplifies the divide between the haves and the have-nots, as this sort of reporting is commonly found in common modern-day society. When a high-profile individual dies, is killed, or has had a traumatic experience happen to them, there are millions of people that are instantaneously informed, despite whether or not that person is truly good or is hiding behind a guise of publicity. And we see that very often, where when a celebrity has something horrible happen to them, whether they're a good person or not, there are millions of people sending their thoughts and prayers to them, even though they've never met them in their entire life. In contrast, if a have-not dies, is killed, or has a traumatic experience happen to them, they are immediately forgotten as if they never even existed at all. This naturally gives us an unconscious feeling that their lives are worth less than the haves. However, the film reflects the societal notion that, on paper, all life is valuable, but in practice, society is completely hypocritical of this notion. The film greatly touches on the fact that the haves are celebrated, while the have-nots are treated like dirt because they are deemed lesser. This is what motivates Joker, as he has been treated like a dog his entire life. His mother, the one person in his life he could lean on and be comfortable with in his 30-plus years of life, was a completely different person than he thought she was, and completely hid the fact that he had been adopted and abused his entire life. He was abused by a stepfather figure in his childhood. He's regularly attacked in his adult life due to having conditions that make him different, and he's faced with hypocrites at every avenue, which cost him his job and his medication. This separation between the haves and the have-nots is also what motivates the followers of Joker, as they too feel they have been dealt a short hand in life, and that such a hand doesn't mean they are lesser than people such as Thomas Wayne, who has everything in life. It's a beautiful encapsulation of what can happen to people when they are just pushed too far. This isn't just an origin story for Joker, it's a reflection on what is happening in the world today and a peek into the minds of these heinous acts. Columbine, Sandy Hook, El Paso, Virginia Beach, all of those heinous crimes were committed due to the perpetrator being in this very state of mind or close to it. This reflection into these minds is the most powerful weapon that we could ever ask for, as it calls for humanity to treat itself better. Over the last few decades, the notions of brotherly love, neighborly formality, and general human kindness have faded into obscurity more and more, and we see the good in people less and less. As these statistics continue to rise and fall respectively, so too do the statistics of heinous acts like these increasing. This is due to the overwhelming toxicity and mental damage this takes on certain individuals and can contribute to them condemning society and treating it with disdain in order to fight back. To the haves that have seen this film and disliked it, dismissing the character of Joker as self-pitying, entitled, a crybaby, completely sick, I don't think they understand the full message behind the film, and how could they? They've never experienced the level of emotional turmoil that have-nots generally go through on a daily basis. This is a deep dive into the trials and tribulations of the have-nots, and what it means to them to be continually knocked down the totem pole. There's only so much one individual can take before they snap, and in this era, it's easier than ever to reach that point with the level of toxicity that is spread around the human race regularly. This film is real. It's painfully real. It's a look into real events that happen every day that are depicted in a fictional setting. Gotham City has become a metaphor for every city that has been stricken with disaster over the last 2 decades with regard to gun violence. For everyone who doesn't think this film is real, or that it's just an exaggeration of what can happen to a person, you're wrong. I'm usually a person that is open to every mindset possible on a subject. I'm not typically one to just call out and say you're wrong. But if that's your line of thinking, you're wrong. Shit like this happens. This is what people, especially have-nots, go through on a daily basis, and the events of this film is what can happen if these events left unchecked. They go left unchecked. That's just the reality of it. There's no denying it. It happens. When these disasters happen, everyone wants to seem to understand the reasons why it happened. People point to violence in television, movies, video games, gun control, and others as culprits in order to provide a scapegoat and a false answer. But this film provides a real answer that can be taken or left depending on if the individual really wants to know the answers as to why these tragedies happen. This film is not for the faint of heart, and it's easy to see why. Some people just don't want to accept the level of evil in this world, and that's okay. The old adage of ignorance is bliss holds true for these individuals. But for the people who genuinely want to help make the world a better place, this film provides all of the answers for you. Humanity has become so toxic that it has become to kill itself by producing these members of society that are willing to do whatever it takes to fight back against what they have deemed a corrupt and broken system. We as a society are responsible for pushing these people to the point where they feel their only option to rationalize their own existence is to commit these terrible deeds. labeling someone as a freak and lambasting them instead of assisting them, turning your back on a fellow human being when they're in need, actively putting yourself before others, going out of your way in efforts to demean someone who is genuinely trying their best, someone you don't even know. These actions have become the norm in this society and has been reflected into why Joker becomes who he is. These actions are what contribute to the devastating tragedies that have occurred in the last 2 decades around the country and around the world. And the fingers need to be started to pointing at society as a whole, if that was grammatically correct. Fingers point to society. We need to start doing that. The dismissive nature of the haves contribute to this, as whether they're political figures, celebrities, or known public figures, they have the power to dismiss whatever they want and have an army behind them at all times. Regular people don't have this luxury and have to fend for themselves. For people who have been dealt a good hand in life, they don't understand what it's like to always be thrown in the dirt. They don't understand what can drive a human being to the point of killing another human being. They don't understand what a breaking point is, and they'll never understand unless they strip away everything that they are. Unless they try to live their life like a have-not, they'll never understand. And in my humble opinion, anyone who is a have, anyone who has a net worth of over $100,000 would not be able to live the life of a have-not for 2 days without going crazy. That's my humble opinion. It's not a fact. That's my opinion. For the have-nots, all of these feelings are all too real. This film reflects the struggles of everyone who has ever hit rock bottom. Everyone who has ever had their entire life stripped away from them. Or anyone who has ever been exuberantly mistreated or abused. The old adage goes, life isn't fair, and it's absolutely true, but there's a line between life not being fair and being actively mistreated, overlooked, and damn near demonized for just trying to live your life. These people, Joker and the perpetrators of these horrendous gun violence tragedies, have all been subject to a society that is so concerned with themselves that they don't want to help people who need it. All people aren't built the same, and there is no need for us to make life harder for people who already have a terrible go. I'm attempting to avoid using the word victim or victimized when talking about these perpetrators because they're not victims. Nothing that has been done to them will ever excuse the level of violence that they resorted to. Nothing excuses the actions they have committed or the lives that they took. That was on them. However, it is important to remember and realize why they did the things that they did, the factors that led up to their actions, and it is important to realize that the notion of all life being sacred is fantastic on paper, but it is never actually realized. Unless you are actively contributing to homeless shelters, food pantries, or other programs that help the homeless, unless you are contributing to mental health hospitals and programs, unless you are actively contributing to affordable medication programs, unless you are contributing in some way to help people that need the help, you do not think all life is sacred. Period. You may think that you do, but actions speak louder than words. I could sit here and tell you that I'm a unicorn all day, but if I can't prove it, I'm not a unicorn. When push comes to shove, you probably think to yourself in silence, in the voice in your head, about what a waste of life that homeless person is, or what a waste of life that drug addict is, or how better of a place the world would be if X person was dead. The notion that all life is sacred has been so ingrained in our society that it has become a meaningless mantra. Something that you tell yourself to make yourself feel like a good person, but you make no active effort to ensure. That, by and large, has been the pattern of this society over the last 2 decades. Excuse me. This film is a blueprint. It's an example. It's a call to action. This film has all the answers society needs to make the world a better place. If we all were to adopt the ideals of human kindness once again, if we all were to help our neighbors in need once again, if we all were to treat our fellow human beings with respect and dignity once again, these tragedies would cease to exist. It's a naive notion to be sure, but it's what needs to happen if these tragedies are to stop. This is your answer. This is what you need to do. This film is a much-needed breath of fresh air for all the reasons you wouldn't expect. It's an actual portrayal of a man hitting rock bottom and what it looks like. It's a man who has everything taken away from him and a man who feels he has nothing left to lose. It's a showcase of what a man like that is actually capable of. People wouldn't get to such a point in society if society was built around helping your fellow man and being there for them in their time of need. In this era, everyone is too over-encumbered with the trials and tribulations of their own lives and that of their own family that nobody seems to give a second thought to people who need help. This includes people with disabilities, mental illness, debilitating conditions, etc., who are commonly labeled as freaks or different from society. This isn't to say that everyone who needs help will turn out like Joker, but the more people who feel they live in a society in which they will never succeed or be valued whatsoever, the more Jokers there will be in the world. The only value Joker sees is when he is doing these dastardly deeds. He sees his handiwork on television and the news reports, and for the first time in his life, he sees his actions have consequences and he receives the attention he's been seeking. This is the exact reason that every human needs to feel valued. Every human needs to be reassured no matter who you are, and every human needs to feel that their emotions have meaning and value. By recreating this notion, we can collectively make this world a far better place than what it is today. It won't be easy, but it's the only way to get humanity back on track and enable us to do great things once again. In conclusion, this film depicts heinous acts that are the result of a society that has become so incredibly toxic that we enable these things to happen to ourselves. It's a look into the mind of people who have become so far gone that they feel their only resort is to retaliate to the society that turned their back on them in efforts to either make a difference, send a message, or leave their mark. They want the attention they sought from the very beginning, and these feelings have been amplified due to years or even decades of just being another number or body to society at large. The only way that they can think of to receive such attention is committing these heinous acts and etching their names into the history books once and for all. The way we can stop this is by banding together as a society and realizing that we are all the same human race fighting for the same goals. We all want what is best for us, our families, our loved ones, and our lives. Every single goddamn one of us. If we were to treat each other as if this were our common goal, the world wouldn't have to suffer through these disgusting acts. The world would be whole and everyone would be all the better for it. Again, an incredibly naive notion. But all of this is what I took away from Joker. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what I've expressed and on your opinion on the film at large. If you'd like to discuss, leave a comment down below. I'd love to talk about this film more with different perspectives and viewpoints thrown in. And with that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you gained something from watching this video. As always, I'll see you next time.